really interesting question, and I think you've got to break it into two parts. And the first is the sentiment piece. So rates starting to rise, uncertainty into the world, people look to sell risk, move up the market cap spectrum. So that's the first thing that we saw. A lot of people moving out of microcaps, thought this was a great business, thought there was a lot of opportunity. I'm unsure what's happening. I need to move out of this sector. So that was the first piece. The second piece is just the impact on the ability to fund your business. A lot of these companies need equity funding to grow. The ability to continue to move their business models forward when you've got an environment of slowing growth, rising costs and all of those kind of things. The impact on the underlying earnings was also an important factor. But overall it was that sentiment piece, I think, that drove the performance of microcaps over the period of rising rates and uncertainty there. It's really interesting. So in the top part of the market, it's really concentrated, as we know. Major banks, the big resource companies. So in microcaps, we've got a huge number of stocks on offer, and they touch every part of the economy. So really exciting in terms of emerging themes and things. Often the first place you'll find that is in the microcap space. When we look internationally, often those stocks are a lot bigger, more liquid, and that's obviously an attribute that people find positive in terms of investing, but just in terms of breadth of stock on offering and the amount of different businesses that we have available to us here in Australia, I think it's quite unique on a global perspective. Yeah, so it's obviously been a really quiet period for IPOs, and that in itself is a really good indicator of sentiment. So when you start to see that picking up, the demand is there, people are feeling more positive about things. So I would definitely expect over the coming 12 months for there to be an increased number of IPOs in our sector. Investment banks are very good at timing these things around themes that are capturing investors' attention at the time. So things like the decarbonisation thematic, anything involved with ageing population and things will probably be businesses that are early to come through, where there is that real appetite and people have a great understanding of the thematic. So they would be some of the areas that I would be looking to. And also, of course, the resources space. There's always interesting things happening there. So that would be another area where we'd expect to see some early movement in the IPO space. So M&A has been a really important driver of our returns through time. And that's because microcaps, you can see how these businesses are travelling. They operate under the ASX listing rules, audited accounts, and all of those good things. M&A is an important part of what happens in the microcap space. And we talk about the current environment, it's been pretty tough generally, but we are starting to see that M&A pick up. And that goes to show, I think, that there is some real value on offer. And in times of stress or uncertainty, good businesses are looking to allocate capital. And the fact that we've seen a bit of a pickup, particularly in the microcap space, again, I think is really encouraging. And that's something that we'd expect to continue going forward. So there's lots of risks, obviously, whether it be geopolitical, whether it be how high interest rates have to go, how much inflation continues to be an issue, and what happens on the global growth kind of area in terms of what expectations are there. So markets are very short-term focused at the moment. They're moving a lot on very single short-term data points. But we see an opportunity where microcaps are really it's an inefficient part of the market generally, but at the moment they're trading with some really undervalued parts of the market on offer. So there are lots of risks to that earnings piece. It's a very uncertain environment. I think we all understand some of those areas that are causing people concern. But when we look at the microcap sector, we see some fantastic stocks, well managed, they're growing, they're turning into something more sustainable, more durable. And in time, the market will either price that appropriately or we'll start to see M&A where someone does that. So we're really optimistic about some of the opportunities that are emerging. We're very fundamental bottom up. So we go and find businesses, and part of that is about what industry are they in? Is that industry growing? Is there tailwinds there? Are there opportunities? Are they taking market share? All of those things are always important when we're doing our initial due diligence. And so when we think about the portfolio, unless the facts change, we're not changing the way that we go about doing things. It's been really successful over an almost 10-year period. And the fact that I think in an environment like this, fundamental value really comes to a fore, and that's going to hold us in good stead going forward.